The issue is the friend not being mature enough to understand their place.
When a man becomes a man in his house, but still wants his mother's voice to be the female voice in his house.
The community you're in when you get married will make or break your marriage. And very often putting boundaries, not just with families, but even with friends.
Then, my brother, you've not become a man. You're still a boy, because your mom's voice cannot be the loudest voice in your house.
She's crossing a boundary that your wife is uncomfortable with, because she's making your wife feel like she doesn't have a voice in her own home.
If your mother's voice is the loudest voice in your house, that means you've not become a king, because your own queen's voice is not being heard.
As the person with the friend, it is your responsibility to put the boundaries that makes your spouse comfortable.
When you become a king in your kingdom, a kingdom is what belongs to you, what you've built. In your kingdom, the voice that should be loud is the voice of your queen.
That needs to be done in the humble beginnings, like setting up healthy boundaries with our families and our communities. I think what is concerning to me as a believer and a woman living in these end times, end times, is that word versus world. If I could summarize what I'm trying to say is, I really feel that as believers, we are in this constant battle between what the world is saying and what the word is saying. And we have finally reached that blur in the world. And we are quoting things as if there's scripture to explain our behavior. Whereas in the world, it says to women anyway, have a man who is financially secure. The word says start small. And this reference comes from Zechariah 4:10. Now, last week, Danny, you made it very clear that your small is not my small. So as you hear me speaking, someone small as a couple is you're both CEOs, but God has called you to what is those companies that have smaller companies underneath it? So I forgot what the word is. Conglomerates, whatever.
Yes.
We're not saying that start off in the streets and have nothing and have no dreams and have no goals. But I saw something recently, a few things about singles events where everyone is beautiful and everyone is handsome, but everyone is single. And I think the reason for that is we have such unrealistic expectations of how these relationships are meant to start. Last week, Danny, you said something that I thought was quite interesting, where you said you once ran a casting agency, so beauty doesn't mean anything for you. And essentially you were looking for someone who was a companion, even intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. That looks wasn't the goal. Guys, if you look at our pictures in the beginning, looks wasn't the goal. In the sense that there were so many other things that connected us to one another. I just think that because we've grown more into ourselves, we take better pictures. So it's easy for people to think that how we look currently was even a marker for how we got together. And there's this whole talk about how Christian couples always say they didn't see each other, but it's by design. I really believe that God doesn't want us to pick partners based on the world. And so that's why a lot of the Christian couple testimonies will look like, I wasn't attracted to you. And what we forget to say is, of course, attraction came or was there. That was part of the shock. Because typically that would not have been the person you'd gone for. And when I thought about it, and I realized that the Lord wants to remove the carnal things from a kingdom mission. He really wants you guys to truly fall in love. He removes all the money, looks, all of that stuff in that season doesn't form part of that deep, deep connection, that feeling that this is my person and we have to build together. I think we have to come back to basics as believers and just say, what is the Lord telling me to do? Because I truly believe that's what kept us. We were getting so much nonsense. For me as a woman, I was being told all kinds of things. You were being told all kinds of things because we were committed to our small beginnings. But I really truly believe that it is our individual understandings of why we were in this thing that didn't just keep us, but it kept us joyous and it kept us happy. And as people who've grown in this thing, I think we can both admit that some of our happiest times were in the humble beginnings. I mean, life is going to put you through things. And at that point in our marriage, we hadn't yet begun to go through things in terms of like children, in terms of like stress, even in terms of calling. It wasn't so clear what we were called to do. So there was a marked level of just ease. It felt like we were just flowing through life, and then the calls came, the different calls. I've called you to this, I've called you to this. And then it felt like some days we wouldn't even see each other. We were like two ships in the night because you were called here and I was called here. We don't speak about how beautiful those humble beginnings are. It's like most mothers can acknowledge the difficulties of the sleepless nights when you give birth to a baby. But most of us can also acknowledge how incredibly special and beautiful. Guys, there's nothing like the smell of a newborn baby when they actually sit in your arms. Now they just run off.
Sound like the mother of toddlers.
Now they've got lives, guys. They've got schedules. They run off. And that's what humble beginnings is about. It's really about that connection and that flow and that newborn smell before you release a thing to really grow. And I think we just need, I want to say spiritual, but spiritual means a lot of not godly things. I think we need a godly understanding of our small beginnings as a couple. You heard me. I said our. Esther's small beginning was in a palace. Rachel's small beginning was literally inside her father's house. So what is the perspective God has given you about your marriage, and why are you comparing it to what the world is saying?
I almost want to encourage our new couples. This might sound terrible, but there's a lot of people you need to get out of your lives. I'm sorry. I believe in relationships, but I believe in being picky.
You mean community around the relationship?
Community, people around you, people who are in your ear. Because sometimes, especially with women, let's start with women. We'll come back to the men.
I'm here.
Hey, you see, I've noticed that women don't say, "You've got a good husband. Congratulations." They go, "You've got a good husband. Can I have him for myself?" And then they don't do it directly. It's like advisors start coming. He should be doing this and this and that for you. Maybe you should have had this and this. No, it's not good enough for you. But it's just loneliness and aloneness or envy being hidden in all kinds of advice. If you truly have friends who care for you, they would encourage you in your small place. They don't come and make you feel smaller. They don't come and paint your situation in a way that will make you uncomfortable in your home. Especially those who are in bad relationships, who are in situations that didn't work out, who have been making bad decisions over and over, and suddenly they see something small starting. And so there's an envy there, my sisters, that you should really be concerned about. Let me jump into the guys. Guys who can't respect your new season. They still want you to hang out like you a single man, or they want to cause a wedge between you and your partner, or act like suddenly you've been caged. Such dudes, I promise you, it'll be better to get rid of them now. Because you'll find that when they find their person,
Ooh. Ooh.
suddenly they understand not being around. But when you found your
Yeah, yeah,
person,
yeah, yeah.
it was somehow a problem.
Mm.
Men, you need to be very careful of men who don't encourage you to build your home, who make you focusing on your home sound like you deserting them. They make it sound like you suddenly have forgotten where you come from. You know what? Maybe you should forget where you come from in certain seasons. Why? I believe when two people are coming together, there's a lot they need to learn about themselves. They need to become this new thing, and then they need to present that new thing as one. Okay? So you find yourselves, you decide this is who we are, and then you bring that back into the world. So when you've got someone there the whole time, it's problematic. But the biggest problem for men is single mothers. Can I go there?
I don't know if you got that shot, but my eyebrows just went because you don't touch a mother, especially in African context. The mother is
My
holy,
brothers, let's touch the
sacred.
holy cow. No, I've noticed something. And look, I come from a single parent home. My parents got divorced when I was very young. I was blessed to have a second father who unfortunately also passed on. So I understand the concept of being raised by a single mom, and I'm not dogging single mothers because I have one and I appreciate my mom. And I really think my wife would admit that she's been our biggest supporter. Now, there's a problem when a man becomes a man in his house, but still wants his mother's voice to be the female voice in his house. Then, my brother, you've not become a man. You're still a boy because your mom's voice cannot be the loudest voice in your house. If your mother's voice is the loudest voice in your house, that means you've not become a king because your own queen's voice is not being heard. When you become a king in your kingdom, a kingdom is what belongs to you, what you've built. In your kingdom, the voice that should be loud is the voice of your queen. Now, a lot of you will sit there and say, no, but I love my mom. Who said anything about not loving your mom? You can love your mom and still show her her place. Her place, her voice must be loudest in her house. And if you guys go to her house, you do things the way it's done in her house. But when you come to your house, to your kingdom, in your kingdom, there must be boundaries. And I think for me, I have a loving mother who is very active, who wants to do everything from a place of love. But I learned quickly, Mom, we love you, but here's the boundaries in our house. Here's the boundaries in our relationship. We love you, but this is how the Vambilis in this camp here, this is how we do things. So what I've found is a lot of men don't grow to a point where they can tell their mothers no, where they can tell their mothers, not in this place. This is how I do things in my house with my wife. And a lot of people will come and tell you, no, what if you get divorced tomorrow and your wife lets you? That's a different issue. Your house is your house, and you need to be the lion in that house. But a lot of men I see, they don't have authority over their mothers, but want authority over their wives. My brother, if your wife can see that even your mom is running you as a man, how does she then submit? These are difficult conversations, and there's a loving way of doing it. It's called boundaries. Setting boundaries and saying, listen, we love you, but this is what we've discussed. This is how we do things. And I think a lot of marriages have fallen apart because of mothers. And unfortunately, it tends to be, it's not just single moms, it's two kind of mothers. Single mothers and mothers who are dominant over their fathers in their houses. So they want to bring that dominance that they had in their marriage into your marriage. And my brother, if you don't address it from the beginning, you're going to have a problem. Because if your dad is an Ahab, Jezebel will also run your house.
But if your dad is an Ahab, that's a deep one. I think part of the reason we need to allow these small beginnings, and I think they're called small. Last time we touched a lot on money and finances, but I think there's a deeper small here. The small is the small emotional capacity of your relationship, the small spiritual capacity, the small boundaries, the small, you have to start small because together you have to figure out what those things are, right?
Yeah.
You said something about community that's so important. The community you're in when you get married will make or break your marriage. And very often the Lord will remove you from your communities in one way or the other in order to ensure that you guys truly cleave to each other. And if you happen to be within your communities, you will unfortunately have to face the challenge of putting boundaries, not just with families, but even with friends. Friends who can't respect the fact that you are now married, so they can't call you past a certain time. I have to touch on this conversation because it's a hot topic with married couples, but I think I've finally come to the place of understanding what the issue is. This idea of male friends versus female friends to married couples. I've come to understand that the issue is not the gender of the friend. The issue is the friend not being mature enough to understand their place, and the spouse not being not being in tune enough with their spouse to understand when the spouse's space feels infringed upon. I think that it's a very to make it a blanket statement and just say men can't have female friends when they're married and females can't have male friends when they're married, that becomes a little bit difficult because life is so nuanced. I mean, you might have a male friend as a female who you were adopted, you didn't have any solid blood family. And I'm speaking as a believer. I've heard this stuff said on podcasts where men of God have sat and said, men cannot have female friends when they're married. And as a wife, of course, that speaks to my ego. That's like, yeah, there's only me. But I think that life is a little bit more nuanced than that. If you, for example, to carry on what I was trying to give as an example is, you were an orphan and there was this really good sister of yours in the faith who literally would send you money to eat when you had no job, or she connected you with opportunities, or she gave you the word. It's very hard for you to just be like, oh, I just got married, cutting you out completely. That's not what we're saying. But I think what the issue is with small beginnings and boundaries with your community is now teaching that sister her place. I think that's why it's become so extreme.
Yeah.
Yes, I do believe there are many people who can't have opposite sex friends when they're married because they have allowed the thing to go so far that now it's just like, stop. But building boundaries that makes sure that your spouse knows their place and they feel respected within their place is important, because that's irrespective of the level of relationship, because you're speaking about mothers. what is that mother doing when she's breaking a boundary? She's crossing a boundary that your wife is uncomfortable with, because she's making your wife feel like she doesn't have a voice in her own home. The same goes for me. If I have a male friend who's calling me past 9 because he wants to talk about the girlfriend that broke his heart, but I'm now married, I think we are disrespecting our husband here. And learning. That's why last week you spoke about how the foundation, the small beginning, is you guys fighting it out and figuring it out. Because remember, we can villainize these friendships, and I'm trying my best to be very neutral
Yeah.
about this thing.
Yeah.
But or we can understand that we've got two people who had full lives before they came together. And we don't very much acknowledge as believers that it will take a certain period for those lives to gel, but you cannot make a fantasy for yourself that your humble beginnings and all the friends you started with, it's supposed to carry on that way. I don't know, the Bible speaks of us going from glory to glory, but we accept that small beginning as the finality of our relationships. If in the beginning, you as a woman have a female friend that your husband is uncomfortable about, I think it's normal to have a tussle in the beginning about it and be like, I'm not comfortable with this, I'm not comfortable with this. As the person with the friend, it is your responsibility to put the boundaries that makes your spouse comfortable. Not going to tell them, oh, my husband feels so insecure when you're, because that's disrespectful.
Yeah.
You slowly begin to make sure that you're not available at certain times. There are certain parties you can't go to anymore. And over time, the hope is that within 10 years, he's still in your life, but there's even more of a distance, because now he gets married and you have to find your place in that person's. And so I think that when we don't do the work that needs to be done in the humble beginnings, like setting up healthy boundaries with our families and our communities, we then end up in a few years having to make harsh decisions, like cutting people out, cold-hearted, cold turkey, and even divorce. You said that a lot of mothers contribute to the downfall of marriages. I would even add communities.
Yes.
I really believe communities, this divorce rate, go back to your
Communities
divorce.
who have no boundaries.
No boundaries. They just on
They
this
have
couple.
Ideas on your marriage, your
when are you
house,
having
your car,
children?
your children,
I have
your
here
ovaries.
Yeah.
Goodness.
I have here in my notes, give couples time.
Yeah.
Once they're married, it's not your concern who's working, who's not working. Come on, let's be real. How does us living in my mom-in-law's house in the beginning of our marriage affect you?
Yeah.
Give couples time. It's this
Yeah.
false care
Yeah.
where people just want to be able to sit over tea
Yeah.
and talk about a specific couple.
And
But
maybe
the
when you are
truth
not
is,
married yourself, it gives you something to talk,
to talk about,
Yeah, because you are lonely.
Like, how does it affect you that they don't have children yet? How does it affect you? And as a couple, protect your relationship. You start picking up these things from your community. Really ask God for wisdom on how to cover one another.
Before we move away, there's a problem that I'm realizing we need to address. This is, it's going to be a bit of a shocker, ne? Daddy's girls. Daddy's girls, please come closer. Let's talk. I've noticed that there are daddy's girls who don't leave their fathers to cleave onto their husbands. In fact, what they want is their husbands to start at the level of their fathers, not seeing that their mothers had to build their own men. So I really want to address the daddy's girls, because I've heard a lot of men get married and now they must compete with this man who's
An
been
entire
married.
60-year-old established
Who's
doctor,
been married 40 years. You are on year one.
Yeah.
Suddenly you're expected to outdo this guy. And I feel those girls, no, Sissy, you are wrong. Number one, where's your own man? Leave your mother's man alone. Your mother built her own man. Build your man, Find a man, respect your man, submit to the vision of your man. You can't be calling your father for advice in your house. You're disrespecting that man. So this issue is such a deep one because these daddy's girls tend to think because their fathers are good, they can continue in the advice of their fathers while being led by their husbands. It's problematic, my sister. We're not saying your father is not good. We're saying you are wrong because your energy should be building your husband, not oppressing your husband with the successes of your father. Not oppressing your husband with the work your mom has done to build her man. Where's the work you've done for your man? Present your work as well. Leave your mother's man alone. As a belief, man. As a belief, it's Afrikaans for please. So I really think this topic is one we really have to explore and help the women, daughters of good fathers, to not undermine their husbands at home. We are grateful that you had a great father. We are thankful that your father was there. He was present. He wasn't absent. We're not saying disown your father. We're saying submit to the vision of your house. And the Bible says what a good woman builds a house. If you breaking your house because you are chasing after another woman's man. No, you're saying, but it's my father. Yes, it's your father, but it's someone's husband, and it's not your husband.
Wait a minute. I'm not trying to stop your train of thought.
Come in,
but
Mama.
You said something that I think is so important for us to do, and that is to go into the topic.
Yes.
There are various ways that we ruin our homes because we think that what we saw from our parents that is good. We often talk about the bad and we villainize the bad. But we're coming back and we're going to talk about how idolizing the good from your family can ruin your marriage because you're not submitted to the process. We will see you next week.